The public prosecutor's office identified, if I'm not mistaken, it was 261 or 251 health insurance bills from Flávio's family. And that money didn't come out of his account. We only know because it was recorded at the cashier and paid at the counter. They went there, look, here it is, 2,000 reais, 500 reais. Pay this for me. But they brought the money in payment slip, you know?
They pay in cash.
They pay in cash, but there was no withdrawal from Flávio's account.
There was no money left in the account.
No, he didn't take it out of his account to pay at the teller. There's no withdrawal from the account. There's only cash to pay. And at his chocolate shop, it was the same thing. There was a huge amount of money in the store's register. In other words, a lot of money was coming into the store's register. But when they did the audit to find out how much product he had sold, in other words, how much chocolate he sold, the numbers didn't match. He sold less product than the amount of money he had in the register.
He was
See
selling
you next time.
more.
Guy from Brazil.
More. He's selling more. Little Trickster, the chocolate, the website was
The
40,
duck egg.
he's selling
But
it.
you're being really nice to him when you said he sold it for more. You're being really nice. The problem is that he
Isn't
sold
that
it. But he sold it. No, he didn't sell it. That's what I'm trying to tell you. He said he sold 10 chocolate bars. Pondo, tá?
Nice.
I don't know, 5,000 reais. But then 2 million came in. But he hadn't recorded that sale. That's what I'm trying to say. Where did those 2 million come from? Where did that money come from? That money comes from laundering. From money that isn't his. From money he obtained illegally.
Was his financial center the chocolate shop?
I don't think it was the
I'm asking
financial
because
center.
I imagine that's where he kept the money so he could take it out and pay. He'd go there and get the money, and you understand where the cash was. Go by the store and get the money. Go by the store and
think
get
that
the
at
money
some
so you
point-
can pay this for me.
That's what the investigation showed, that at some point he used the chocolate shop's cash register to launder money. He did that. But that's not all he did. He also bought real estate with cash. He had several ways to launder dirty money. I know that nowadays we pay for a lot of things with Pix, right? But in 2010 at the market, there was no Pix. There was TED. For you to pay for things in cash, I mean, for you to pay to buy a piece of candy or, I don't know, an energy drink at a convenience store. If you don't have your card, and you're going to pay in cash, you have to have withdrawn that money, right? From your account. You have to go to the ATM to do that. How do you pay so many bills without having withdrawn the money from your account? Where did that money come from? Where did the money you used to pay bills come from if it didn't come from your account?
Did all the money that went into her account just stay there untouched?
Yes, that's what I mean. At the same time that Flávio was paying, he paid for school.
Unimed. Everyday
with
things.
cash, paying directly at the teller.
You can't have anything in the bank.
No, look, just to make it clear. They pay. Queiroz was caught in at least 2 incidents, but, well, Bolsonaro created an intelligence service for himself. He even said that himself, right? In those live streams of his. Didn't he say that? In one of the videos from the ministerial meetings? It wasn't even a live stream that we operated. His intelligence service operated. We found out later what it was.
It would be the parallel ABIN, right?
And what did the parallel ABIN do? Under Ramagum's leadership. Through Ramagum's leadership. Espionage. They spied on journalists, magistrates, opponents. But Bolsonaro even spied on his allies, even people he didn't trust enough. But they were people from the government.
You know,
not just espionage, because it wasn't just spying. They also carried out coordinated attacks, right? So there were discussions among the same group that did it.
If the government was criticized, the group
They
attacked.
attacked because they worked together. The parallel ABIN with the so-called hate cabinet. They were the special advisors of Bolsonaro. They had been advisors before to Carlos Bolsonaro and to Bolsonaro himself. Yes, I'm talking about Tercio. I'm talking about, yes, Zé Mateus. He's another one I call a prankster. These people, they worked with some of the ABIN agents. Parallel, there was a group of federal police officers there. They were with Ramagum. They produced information to attack people. So they attacked Mourão several times. They attacked General Santos Cruz. And I remember at the time of more intense. But it wasn't them there, directly, I think. But I also remember Braga Neto inciting attacks against the commanders of the Air Force, the commander of the Air Force, Brigadier Jr., and the commander of the army, so that they would help with the coup d'etat. These messages also show up. That was part of the tactic. So, But there was also espionage. And there was even espionage involving a business partner of Jair Renan, who was being investigated for influence peddling. And ABIN assigned some agents to follow Jair Renan's business partner. I don't know exactly what they wanted, but they were spying on the business partner because of this investigation. It was to come up with some kind of justification for this investigation, right? I mean, to try to protect Jair Renan from what he was doing. It also ended up leaking later. The meeting of Flávio's lawyers discussing with Ramagam how they were going to stop Flávio's case. Anyway, there was a lot going on, and there were a lot of phones that were used on a platform. Not a platform, an Israeli tool called First Mile, where they would put phones in there to find out where the person was. And it was the beginning of the monitoring. Second, according to what was investigated by the federal police.
This software was purchased from both the Israeli and Bolsonaro governments.
It was bought at the end of the Temer administration, within the scope of...
It was by the Rio de Janeiro state government.
It was by the Rio de Janeiro state government. When Braga Neto was the federal intervener, it was at the very end of Braga Neto's term as intervenor.
The objective was to investigate criminal factions.
That, right? That was the excuse. In practice, it ended up being used by the BIM. And not in Rio de Janeiro. So there are a lot of questions that these people, in fact, haven't answered concretely.
The ones we coerced were Bolsonaro's family directly.
Through the lawyer Frederico Wassef, who is, well, a man Flávio Bolsonaro trusts completely.
Were you coerced by him?
I was threatened with death by him. Yeah, and I was also harassed more than once. Yeah, he is a completely unpleasant person.
When you had to get in the car?
No, I didn't.
No,
but there were other journalists? No, that car story never happened to me. No, that happened to other colleagues. He tried, he coerced other colleagues to get in cars with him. He did that to other journalists.
To explain the correct version of the facts?
Yes. You can picture the situation, right? The guy grabs your arm and puts you in the car. But he called me at completely inappropriate times. Midnight, 1 in the morning. Asking what I wanted so I wouldn't publish certain articles. We, right at the time, worked at Globo. The newspaper wanted an interview for Flávio to explain himself about all his embezzlement, about his money laundering. And he was the one through whom we handled that negotiation. So I called and asked for this interview several times because we were publishing a series of accusations. And we wanted to give Flávio a chance to speak.
Right of reply.
Right? It's not even a right of reply, because the right of reply is something very specific in the law. What we wanted was, as journalists, you ask questions. I don't want to make accusations without giving the person a chance to respond. I want her version. But Flávio didn't answer you. Flávio Bolsonaro is really bad at responding to things that come up about the crimes he's involved in.
He just likes changing his story like that.
Change the story. Omit the story. Lie. He's also true to that.
Maybe that's his version, right?
No, he really lies. He really lies.
Robertinho is great, right?
I love him. No, Roberto,
Congratulations,
obviously.
Congratulations.
Look here, last week, just a few days ago.
It's because you're going to have 3 versions. His, the other one, and the real one. There are always 3.
But I think it's important that we live in this time when people think things are just versions. No, some things are just lies, right? They're lies. So, a few days ago, when he was questioned by the Intercept team because of the audio he sent to Vorkado asking for money, demanding money for the film right there, shortly before Vorkado's arrest. He even says he knows you're dealing with your problems. And then the reporter asks him that, and then he turns and says, yeah, that's a lie. Activist. And it wasn't a lie. She gave up. The one who was lying was Flávio. Yes, also, in the interviews he's been giving as a candidate for president of the Republic, when he says they accessed his bank records and found nothing. I kind of feel like laughing, you know. A statement like that just makes me want to laugh. No.
They didn't break or empower him.
They accessed his records. legally with a court order, which is another lie he tells. Sometimes he says they got his data illegally, but that's a lie. When they got access to those confidential records, they found a lot of things. It's not that they didn't find anything, they actually found too much. They found, for example, because they got access to Flávio's records and those of the other people under investigation, including Flávio's wife. Flávio's wife, for example, never made a withdrawal from her account between 2010 and 2014.